What is this?
Direction and talk about.
Man tries to talk about male suicide on BBC while feminist hosts try to shut him down, try to imply men killing themselves don't matter because women have problems too, and of course they repeat the mythical pay gap.
Jeff's book, or the sort of subject matter, The British Bloke Decoded, which tries broadly to explain the behaviour of Britain's husbands, dads and brothers. Now, it's quite a light-hearted book.
From banter to man flu, everything finally explained.
There you go. All right, good promotion. Men have obviously and arguably taken a lot of flack, rightly, in the past few years. Many people would say post #MeToo. Is this an attempt to rehabilitate the image of an average bloke?
Well, I suppose what I always thought was like that blokes are a subset species of men, and most blokes don't really have a huge amount of power in their own lives. They're sort of trying to be dependable, loving people for the people in their lives. They might not be the...
Bro, imagine if I said women, right? Women are just, you know, rightly being put down in other places like Africa, you know, but they deserve it. Yeah, imagine saying that somebody deserves it, bro. Imagine saying that 50% of the population deserves to be treated like shit. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Remembering important dates or even the names of their nephews and nieces, you know, like. But I think that it's an occasional rubbishness coming from a good place. So what I've tried to do in this book is just try to explain some of the more baffling behaviour of men, like, you know, the fact that we don't put on sun cream when we're on holiday, you know, maybe to the third day. It's easy to say, well, it's just bravado. And then I sort of thought about it more deeply, and I thought, well, actually, we don't put on lotions more generally. So the moment we're on a beach and you have to navigate...
Yeah, the truth is men don't care about themselves because they got too many other things to care about. So they don't even care about themselves.
But your lower back.
It's because you're not used to doing it.
We're not match fit, Joe. That's the thing. And you think that might be the first time we've touched that bit of our back that year. So I was trying to take a lot of these areas where men's behaviour is confusing and say, is there something deeper? And I think that they're light-hearted subjects like that. But there's also, you know, like loneliness and what happens to male friendships as we age.
Well, and when it comes to the serious points, we might come back to the application of sun cream later on. But in the Times, this headline, Sunak urged to appoint Minister for Men, suggested by a Conservative MP. New role would champion issues such as reducing male suicide. Would that be something you'd be in favour of?
Yes.
Well, what's interesting about that is the hostility it sometimes faces whenever it comes up. I saw a programme where there was like a feminist academic and a Lib Dem MP, and they were so hostile to this idea. And I thought, if you flipped those things, it's the biggest cause of death for men under 50 is suicide. Men are less likely to go to the doctor.
How is more men dying a good thing? Dude, if you genuinely think that, man, you hate your father, you hate your brother, you hate your cousin, you hate your grandfather, you hate the men that liberated you from, like, Nazi regime.
You know, men are less likely to maintain friendships. If that was for women, we'd often look at, well, why is society making that happen? Whereas with men, the argument is often, why are they doing that to themselves? So I'm not, like, totally wedded to the idea, but the hostility towards the idea, I find it instructive.
Ava?
I think that it feeds into the culture a little bit, this Minister for Men argument. Like, in my mind, I think there should be a Minister for Mental Health, which would be all-encompassing. I mean, you've got something like 7 million children waiting for prescriptions for mental health at the moment. It's a crisis that's endemic throughout the country, not specific to men. And I think, you know, a lot of ministers kind of bandy this about to sort of, I'm sorry, but make an enemy out of women. I think, not you, and I don't think your book is.
I don't
Sunak...
accept that. I don't think it is.
How is male suicide a thing that has anything to do with women? Like, guys kill themselves like 6 times more than women. Or like 10 times. It's some ridiculous number. Women try more. But they try. You know, they do the wrists. They don't even do it properly. They take pills. They don't even take them properly. You know, like, a guy wants to die, he'll buy a gun and he'll pull the trigger. A guy wants to die, he'll go to a roof and jump off. Like, these things are way more permanent than the ways women choose. women choose ways where it's like, maybe I can keep existing because they don't want to. They won't help. The men are like, I don't. No, I'm not saying that girls are too dumb to die. I'm saying that the girls don't want to actually die. The girls don't actually want to die. They don't actually want to die. They want somebody to see them, but they don't want to ask for help. It's so hard for them to actually be like, hey, you know what? My mind is telling me to fucking die, and I don't want to die. I don't know what the fuck is going on. They can't say that, so instead they slit their wrists. Right? But a man truly wants to die, so they just jump off. So they just pull the trigger. It's not really attention seeking, because people, like, yeah, you could say it's attention seeking, but people have a bad connotation on attention seeking. It's more like, please help me, but I don't want to ask for help. I need help, but I don't want to ask for help. A man says, I can't help myself, I don't want to be a burden to society, I'm out. That's the difference. Remove the toxic shit of attention seeking, of like dramatic. Remove these things, because people are gonna see it as bad. What it truly is one of them doesn't want to die, wants help, but is embarrassed to ask. And the other one thinks they're useless and doesn't want to tell anybody because they don't want to be a burden, so they just do it. There's a difference. You see, one comes from embarrassment of admitting that you need help, and the other one comes from you thinking that you are bad for everybody, that you hurt everybody else, and so you're going to kill yourself for it. You know, it's a very noble cause, but it's a stupid cause because it's not true, but it's something men feel. It doesn't make men dumb. It doesn't make them this, that, or the other. It makes them noble and unable to see that they are wrong. That's what it makes them. And then society tells them that they're monsters, that they're pigs, that they're pieces of shit. And then people do it even more. That's the issue.
Is to make an enemy. If we looked at during COVID,
I say that as somebody who wanted to kill themselves.
From COVID,
I know what I'm talking about.
Myself as a meninist or one of these guys from the manosphere, because that's not who I am. But I do find it interesting that sometimes the arguments.
And by the way, I know what I'm talking about. I wanted to kill myself, and I have friends who wanted to kill themselves. Thankfully, I was able to help them, and they were able to help me, and we're still all around on Earth, right? But I know men who wanted to kill themselves and women who wanted to kill themselves. And the men wanted to take way more drastic options, and the women slit their wrists, took pills. You know? There's a difference. The men were thinking of jumping off a bridge.
But who was doing all the work during COVID? You know, a lot of the time, if you looked into people's households, it was the women who were taking on the laundry, the school care, all of that.
I'm not disputing any of that. What I'm saying that there are specific issues that men face that might warrant specific attention. I mean, literally, the biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide. That is an arresting statistic, and if that doesn't warrant specific attention, mental health is an umbrella issue.
I have to say that is also because women are unsuccessful. That is a lot of feeds into that statistic.
But it feels like.
What? Women are unsuccessful on killing themselves. But that's because they really truly are two different issues, and they're just never going to understand. They're just never going to understand, dude. People like her will just not understand. Like, you have to ask yourself, why is it that women try it more but don't succeed. Are they dumb? Are they stupid? Why? Why do they take way less violent actions? Why? You have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself. You can't just say, well, they're unsuccessful. People just see the surface, dude. People see the surface and they don't see the deeper issues, and they don't want to see the deeper issues because it's so hard. It's so hard to go down that route. I don't know how to explain it to somebody who's never experienced true depression. When I am in this mental state that I'm at, I can't really explain it that well. But when I tap into that darkness, I can explain it perfectly. And there's a disconnect between people thinking, oh, you're just sad. No, dude, I wish I was sad. I wish I was sad. Depression, you don't feel, dude. You don't feel. You think you're a sociopath. You don't feel sadness. You don't feel it. And then there's like a desperation that just comes over you. But it's not a sadness. Sadness is a nice emotion to have. Sadness is an emotion that you can get through. Sadness is an emotion that you feel when somebody dies. Sadness is part of life. But then there's the void. There's a void. You don't even feel like a human being. You don't even feel like everybody else. You see everybody else and you're like, I am not like them. I'm broken. I can't feel sadness. I can't feel happiness. I can't feel anger. I don't feel anything. And they fail to grasp. Like, the sadder you get, you don't fall into depression just because you're sad. You know, you could be sad for a month. That doesn't mean you fall into depression. It's a different thing. Depression is when your mind just shifts. There's a shift. And it's a black hole of everything that you do is bad. Everything you do gets... It's like rose-colored glasses. It's like the opposite of love. And the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. That's what it is. That's what depression is. You know how when you're in love with somebody, everything gets turned into a good thing. Oh my God, the way she kicks at night at like 3 a.m. The way he, you know, almost falls off the tree and wakes up at 5 a.m. Oh my God, that's so cute. It's so cute. Rose-colored glasses, right? But after the third month, it's like, bro, holy fuck. Can you please stop moving at 3 a.m.? You're waking me the fuck up. Like, I'm going to have to get a different bed, dog. This is bad. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Imagine rose-colored glasses, but for nothingness. And for bad, for evil. So everything good you do, you did for a bad reason. You helped that person, but you did that to feel good. And you shouldn't feel good because you're a piece of shit. And you've treated the people in your life like shit. So you feeling good actually allows you to be a piece of shit to everyone around you. So you doing that one good thing just did 10,000 bad things for those people that you care about. So you did that because you want to be an evil piece of shit. That's what depression is. That's what depression is. It turns everything, every good thing you do, into a bad thing. It's your own mind, it's a black hole, and it seems inescapable. You know how physics doesn't make sense in a black hole? Logic doesn't make sense to a depressed person. And a logical or a non-depressed person can't see what it is to be depressed, truly depressed. They can't see it. They don't understand. Hey, just go to the gym. Hey, just eat. Hey, drink water. Like, it doesn't work like that. Stop being weak. Dude. Depressed people are the strongest and most resilient minds I've ever seen. Dude, depressed people are unstoppable forces. They are. They're aimed at the wrong place. They're aimed towards destruction, but it's an unstoppable force. No matter what you do, it keeps on trucking. And that is the description of resilience. Depressed people are resilient as fuck. They're just resilient towards the wrong thing. They're resilient towards good thoughts. They're resilient towards beautiful words from people that they care about. They are resilient to those things. It's not that they're weak. It's that they are so powerful and their brain is so powerful that it will turn even the most beautiful and selfless of acts into a selfish act, into a horrible act. And I think that's the disconnect that people don't see. It's not weakness. And that's also why when depressed people get past that depression, the fuck is going to stop them? Why do you think David Goggins is who David Goggins is? Why do you think he's that guy? Because he was truly depressed. Because he was truly there. Why do you think he's like that? Because of that depression was that train. And what he did is he turned that train around. But what people got to understand is you cannot stop the train. It's unstoppable. You don't stop it. You don't stop it. You nudge it. You don't want to stop the train and then get it started in the other direction. That's not how it works. You nudge it. You move it. You start to make it turn. It's unstoppable. Yeah, but you're pushing it this way and pushing it this way. And all of a sudden, you're going to notice that it's actually going in the other direction and it's going to be unstoppable in the other direction. That's the true power of depression. When you can tap into that, you really, truly do become unstoppable. But it's something that people don't understand. And it's a fundamental misunderstanding, like I said. Because people are like, well, just stop being depressed. That's not how it works. You nudge it. You hold on to those things that keep you here. And you pull on those things. And you try to work those things. You try to make those things better. You try to amend those relationships. But you do it slowly. You curb it. You don't stop it. You don't all of a sudden say, okay, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to eat, I'm going to feel great. That doesn't happen. That doesn't exist. That doesn't happen. You're going to take small victories, bit by bit, and you start constructing the new railroad in which the unstoppable train is going to keep going. Because remember, it's an unstoppable train. It truly is. Use it to your advantage. But anyways, enough ranting about depression.
It just doesn't feel like you've got any space for this idea that men might have unique challenges that face them. And the problem is, even as I'm saying this, in my mind, it's like I've got out the violin and I don't want to be.
Read the book.
I don't want to be this guy, because that's part of the problem. Is because you're encouraged on one level is men need to talk about their problems more, and then the moment you do it, you're like, all right, but not quite so often and not quite so loud. So like you say, the book is not. The book is more light-hearted than that, but it certainly goes around these issues.
Francis?
I think it's about this issue. I've got a brother, a son, nephews, Paul Novak, one of my best
There you
mates, who's leading the TUC. When you look at masculinity, it sort of feels like boys are still brought up. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to talk about your feelings.
But it's not just
you've
that.
got to put on this bravado, and I think that has to change.
It's
but
not
I also think that we
that.
have to change the fact that women still earn 15% less
Oh
than men.
my
No one's saying you can't do both.
No,
You can
exactly.
multitask.
Exactly. I agree.
Can you multitask?
Well, not me,
Brother.
obviously, but I'm saying that. But I don't think that those
most
are
women-
reasons to
most
not address
women-
these problems.
No, I agree,
Francis.
but most women experience sexual harassment.
But I totally accept
one
that. I
woman
don't
gets
understand
killed
what but
every
it's happening
day
again with this
by
conversation where
a
I'm talking about the
partner.
specific
But
issues
what-
that men face, and
here's a
you're quoting
positive
other issues which I
proposal.
do not contest on
Jeff,
any level.
Here's a proposal.
Oh man. This is why people kill themselves. I don't know why us humans do this so much. It's like we all play a game of I'm suffering more, I'm suffering more. These are not real people with real conversations. These are not real people. These people don't want to hear. They don't want to listen. Jesus Christ, bro. It's not men against women and women against men. That's cringe. It's not that. Stop making it that. Like, how do you go from male suicide to the pay gap? Bro, like, it's a book about men. Why are you bringing up women? You know, like, look, there are some movements that I'll be like, okay, yeah, it makes sense, right? The Me Too movement, it was mostly women, but there were a few men. Right? And I truly think that in that movement, those men, okay, I'll tell you what I've seen in many hold on. I'll tell you what I have seen in many of these problems that humanity faces. Women say we have an issue and men don't want to talk about it. Men don't want to help us. We need help. Then Me Too comes out. A lot of women, right, come out. And some men come out and they say, yeah, this also happened to me. It also happens to men. And women go, wait, this is our movement. Get away from our movement, not you. And I go, hold on. You guys have always asked for men to be involved in your movement. And when they get involved in your movement, you push them away. So you don't want what you say you want. Because you always say you want men allies. You know who your best allies are? People who have gone through the same thing as you. Those are your best allies. Because a lot of people in the world will say, well, you know what? If it happened to a guy, yeah, it'll happen to a woman. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like that. Those guys are your strongest allies because they truly understand you as much as any man can understand you. Those guys you should cherish, you should care about. These people understand you the best out of any man. Don't push them away. That's stupid. I would be perfectly fine if they were talking about women committing suicide. Because look, if you're a man, right, and you're going to commit suicide, some of the people that will understand you too are women who want to commit suicide too. They will listen to you, and I say that from experience. And some of the greatest allies for women who want to commit suicide are men who also want to commit suicide, who are in the same boat. But don't bring me people who are on a different boat. It's a different issue. We're no longer talking about suicide. This is a different issue, right? It's like, if we're talking about Me Too and then somebody says, but what about men's suicide? Bro, hold on, this is Me Too. This is sexual harassment. If you got a story about sexual harassment, all right, go ahead. Be in the movement. But if you're going to bring up another thing of like men commit suicide, what about men that commit suicide? Like, come on, hold on. But if you're having this panel about men committing suicide, like, why do you bring up the pay gap? And then you fucking retards don't notice that none of this gets fixed because you always fight and talk past each other. You never converse with each other. You never have a real conversation. You're always, what about this? And what about that? And what about that other thing? And what about that one? And you're both talking past each other. And you're not having a real conversation like human beings like we're supposed to. Hey, look, there's this issue. Can we try to help this issue out? Do you have another issue that you would like to bring up? Yes, I do have another issue. I have this other issue. Okay, we fixed this issue. Now let's fix this issue. Now let's fix that issue. Instead, it's like, hey, let's fix this issue. No, but what about this issue? What about this issue? And what about this other issue? And what about this other issue? Come on, dog. This is how nothing gets fixed. This is how nothing gets fixed. You fucking troglodytes make sure that nothing changes. You're worthless. You are a detriment to society. You are killing society. You're fucking everyone over by doing this. And they don't realize. Because people see themselves as champions for a cause. And you should be a champion for humanity. For humans. Not for a single cause. You should care about humans. You shouldn't only care about women, men, black women, black men, white women. You should care about all of the people in the world that are suffering. You should be able to care about them. Not only about one tiny speck of the people. But yeah, people have their issues that they just champion, and they don't realize that when you're a champion, right, for one cause, you're a gladiator for one side, and you're fighting for another gladiator. What I am saying is that yes, all lives matter. That's what I'm saying, bro. All lives matter. But in the true cause of it. Not in the anti-black my lives matter cause of it, okay? I'm saying, yeah, look, my mother's a woman. Right? My mother's an older woman. She can't really get a job at a TV station because she's not a younger girl. I don't like that. I think that's fucked. I don't like that being the case. You know? You know what I mean? But I've got a brother, I've got a cousin, I've got a young cousin, I've got a friend, I've got a, you know? Dude, when you guys meet my friends, you'll see. I don't give a fuck what you look like, who you identify as. I give a fuck about your heart. I care about your heart. Are you a good person or you a bad person? That's it. I don't care whether you're a woman, a man, fat, skinny, black, white, Mexican, English, fucking soulless, redhead. I don't give a fuck. You could be 40, you could be 23. If you're cool, you can be my friend. I truly don't give a fuck. But unfortunately, are you saying your friends are ugly? Some of my friends aren't that good looking, but they have a good soul. They have a good soul, but other friends of mine are beautiful people. And they're a little troll. Ah, bro. I don't understand how you can get to her age and not realise what you are.
I'm seeming
Why
very
don't
chippy
you-
now, aren't I? I didn't
Why
expect
don't
it.
you launch BASH, Blokes Against Sexual Harassment?
I'm totally.
Somebody needs to tell this fucking dumb cunt. Yeah, I'm coming out with the dumb cunt now. Somebody needs to tell this dumb cunt. I should have been on the thing, and I should have been on this thing, and I should have said because I was gonna fucking kill myself, and I'm saving people who are in my fucking spot. I never sexually harassed anybody, and yet I wanted to fucking kill myself. Something that you can't understand. That's why I believe in my cause. That's why I speak how I speak. Because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my friends. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people who cared about me. That's why I care about this one thing, but I also care about sexual harassment. I've had friends who have come up to me crying, hey, this happened to me. There's a reason why they come to me. Hey, this thing happened to me. Hey, by the way, this happened to me when I was young. Hey, by the way, this is going on in my life. Hey, by the way, I just realized that this shit happened to me and those are women coming to me. Why? Because they feel safe, because they know I'll listen. They know I'll hear them out. But she doesn't. She's not that person. If her daughter was sexually harassed, she wouldn't go to her mother. Her mother's not going to listen. Maybe on the sexually harassed thing, yes. If her daughter wanted to kill herself, she wouldn't talk to her daughter. She'd come to me. I'm not Jesus, bro. Nowhere near that motherfucker. But, and she gets paid to do this, bro. She gets paid to be a hag.
Against sexual harassment.
Yo, this is the true wretched hag.
Of course I am.
But do something to support women. Stand by
We're talking about men right now.
women who are facing that in the way that women
She doesn't realize that she is the man who goes to a women's march and says, what about the men who are killing themselves? She's cringe. She's cringe. If she was a man, she'd be saying on all the women's marches, all of the feminist things, she'd be going on. When Me Too came out, she'd be saying, but what about the men who kill themselves? Why don't you talk about that? She'd be that. Like, yes, we're going to talk about that. Right now, we're on this issue. We'll move. Like,
women stand by men. You stand by women, and I think we could.
Well, it's I do
really
think this
get something
discussion has
going.
already been interesting. I've mentioned the suicide stat several times, and we've ended up discussing other things which are completely valid, certainly in terms of my
and that's why men kill themselves.
industry, and I understand why those discussions are live discussions. But the idea that we can't have both those discussions, I genuinely find that odd,
Nobody said we
Francis.
couldn't.
Is this,
Well, I tried to,
discussion
and then it was
being
shut down.
squeezed out? Is there not enough space for this as well?
Well, it slightly feels I'd rather agree with Jeff. I'm fascinated listening to this discussion that at the first hint of men saying maybe we need a bit of attention, it's women have been oppressed throughout the ages, which is true, but it must be the case that if there are specific male problems or problems that only affect men, then we should try and deal with them at the same time as dealing with the specific issues that affect women.
What would you task the Minister for Men
Sexism
with
is
doing?
ultimately bad for men too. Sexual harassment is ultimately bad for men too. And
Dude, she's not going to change unless her son shoots himself in the head. And then she will see, oh, I've made a mistake. She's not going to change unless that happens. She's lost in the sauce. She's lost.
Decent men need to stand up and say so. And I
I'm
think
happy
we
to
could,
say
we
so
could
right
have better,
now. I'm happy
better
to talk about
lives together.
the problems in my industry. I'm happy to stand and say, you know, that in comedy there are specific problems.
My God, bro. Listen, in another universe, if this guy pulls a gun, aims it at his head, and says, listen, I tried one last time to talk about men's issues and you turned it into a woman's issue, and then he fucking shoots himself in the head. Dude, the amount of brain shift that would happen for society would be immense. There should be a movie about that. We should make that movie, dude. A depressed guy tries to bring these issues up, gets on the show, and this is the finale of the movie, right? The guy has been turning his life around. He's helping people out. He makes his book. He writes his book. He's on a panel. Everybody starts talking about a different thing, and he says, this is exactly why men keep killing themselves. You don't want to have the conversation. And she says, but what about the women? And he picks up the gun and he says, I guess they're gonna learn to live without me, or some bullshit like this. Or he looks at the camera and he says the name of his daughter, I love you, and he shoots himself. Like, bro, it's almost a comedy. It's almost a comedy. How bad this shit
There's
is.
a power imbalance.
But that's
there?
what, and I've had that discussion on my podcast and elsewhere. I'm happy to say that as many times as people want me to say it. But just in this small section of the show, I thought we were going to just mention about some of the specific problems that men face. Men were more likely to die from COVID. If that had been flipped, we would have looked at why is this? This is a tragedy. We'd have looked at all the underlying reasons. But it just wasn't really a discussion. And I'm just interested in why it wasn't a discussion.
Well, that'll be for the next show.
Yes, the book is more light-hearted than this discussion.
All right.
I just made that point.
That's all we have time for. But thank you to all of my guests, and
I'd like to have a conversation with her, bro. I wish I was a bigger streamer so I could have a conversation with her and I could explain to her. I could explain these things to her. Man. It's just... women have... everybody has problems, but yeah, like, bro... yeah, dude, if I had money, if I had views, the power, bro... man, I'd be making short films. I'd be making short films about a guy who turns his life around and fucking shoots himself in the head. Because of people like this bitch. I'd be making short films like that, bro. Holy fuck, man. We gotta start climbing. Listen, get out of this place, bro. We're not gonna find these things. Like, honestly, I think we gotta start doing that, bro. I think we gotta start doing that. Nobody else is gonna do it. Might as well be us. Nobody else is gonna do it. You know, put my money where my mouth is and just do it. Yeah, we'll start, bro, as soon as I get money and shit, we'll start making short films. We'll start making short films about these issues. Because, man, people gotta understand. People, like... I don't know how you can be 60-something years old and just... that careless. Man, if her son kills himself in front of her, I honestly think that's the only way she turns. It's the only way she's gonna realize, what have I become? My empire of dirt. Da, 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 da. This is gonna be her, bro. What have I become?